August 14th, 1989, a day in gaming history that no one should forget. Maybe you weren't born, but there's always encyclopedias. Well, scratch that. It's always Google and books. You can always read, you can look things up, you can do research. Trust me when I tell you, the Sega Genesis launched August 14th, 1989, and it brought a whole new era of 16-bit gaming. Okay, I'll admit it, I'm a Sega fanboy, but I'm also a PlayStation fanboy, I'm also an Xbox fanboy, I'm also a Nintendo fanboy. I just love gaming in general. 5 years ago was the 30th anniversary of the Sega Genesis. They announced the Mini, which was a fantastic little machine. But when I tell you I was utterly disappointed by the fact that just a whimper out of Sega today. Just one Twitter post regarding the anniversary and no other mention. A couple live streams with Puyo Puyo and nothing to do with the Genesis. They could have took this time to announce a new Sonic game, a new Genesis title, a remake, rehash. I don't care. Re-release the same 30, 40 Genesis games that you've been re-releasing for the last 25 years. I don't give a crap. Something would have been nice. Something for the PS5, maybe the Series X, Switch. Not 10, 20, 25, 30, 35, 50 big moments in wedding anniversaries, in gaming history, big monumental occasions. Look at Mario, what they did for the 35th anniversary. What did Sega do for the Genesis? Nothing but a Twitter post. It's not only just Sega. You got all these retro gamers on YouTube, and I didn't see anything from any of them. What gives? They're redoing all these games, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, and I read it. Most of these games are Dreamcast games. Most of these games are still more modern, but it would have been nice for them to reveal something, a surprise, remake, reissue, re-release, something from the 16-bit era, something from Sega's heyday, and we got nothing. Almost no YouTubers, almost no one celebrating the fact that Sega Genesis has turned 35. How important Genesis is one of the most important consoles of all time. It has a big history when it comes to gaming. Not only is it an important milestone, not only is it huge to the gaming industry, but the Sega Genesis had some of the most iconic gaming titles of all time. But I don't want to be a negative Nathan and just talk bad about how they handle the Genesis. I want to celebrate the Sega Genesis turning 35. Even if you weren't around, even if you weren't alive for the Sega Genesis, obviously you can go ahead and play through emulators. You can go ahead and buy a Sega Genesis off of an online marketplace or a pawn shop or what have you. There's plenty of ways to experience the Sega Genesis. You don't have to have lived in that era to play the Sega Genesis. You don't have to have been around to appreciate the Sega Genesis 16-bit titles and what it's done for gaming. You can even see the Genesis has lived on in modern gaming. Plenty of games that are still around from the Sega Genesis life cycle. Now, I wanted to ask you out there, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about how Sega treated the Genesis during this milestone, this monumental occasion, 35th anniversary of the Sega Genesis in North America, at least I should say that. It doesn't count for Japan, and I'm not counting the Mega Drive in Europe. We're just talking about the North American launch. All the games you see here are from the Sega Genesis collection, which is a fantastic collection. You can get it on PS4. I also own Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection on PS3. Fortunately, I can't stream that. I need a capture card. I will say this, that was my first platinum on the PlayStation 3, that split second, so it will always hold a special place in my heart. And even though Sega was around with arcade games in the past and the Sega Master System, and they've been doing things for years and years prior, I do like to think that Sega is the house that Sonic built. Keep in mind the NES, Nintendo, had a 90% market share at one point in time with the Sega Master System NES. It was dominating. The Genesis turned things around, and not only did they start to increase sales, but they actually overtook them at one point in time with a 60-40 lead. And half of that is thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog and blast processing and just their slick marketing campaigns and just awesome games and blood and more mature titles. EA Sports has a lot to do with it. The fact that EA Sports wasn't on the Dreamcast has a lot to do with the failure of that system, but that's a whole other story for another day. Dreamcast turns 25 this year. I want to do something special for that because I don't think anybody else is going to, unfortunately. If you search my YouTube channel, you will see gameplay from all of these games and more. Lots of Sega Genesis titles, lots of Sega titles in general. You can search up your favorite title. I'll probably have gameplay of it from Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, you name it. Now, I wanted to talk about some of my favorite Genesis games, and maybe y'all can, in the comment section, let me know what you think of my selections, and let me know what some of your favorite Sega Genesis games are of all time. Obviously, Sonic 1, 2, and 3, with 3 holding a special place in my heart. Sonic and Knuckles is also honorable mention. A really, really great game. And Sonic 3 and Knuckles, basically the lock-on technology. Sega did a lot of innovative things. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, what Michael meant to Sega, what Sega meant to Michael, just awesome. Gunstar Heroes, fantastic. Run and Gun, Ranger X, Thunder Force, Streets of Rage 2, Contra, Street Fighter 2, obviously not as good as the SNES port, but just a fantastic game. Ushered in the 6-button controller. Shinobi, any Shinobi, but Shinobi 3 in particular. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. Flashback, Vector Man series, Phantasy Star. Phantasy Star 4 was one of my favorites. A lot of money, $100 back in the day is what that game costs. It probably goes for double or triple that now even, but an expensive title, expensive cartridge. Splatterhouse 3, Comic Zone, NHL series, Madden, of course, Dynamite Heady, Mortal Kombat. It had blood through a code, but the Super Nintendo version, the original Mortal Kombat 1, no blood. That obviously helped them gain sales. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, aka Puyo Puyo, Rocket Knight Adventures, Columns, of course, the Sega's answer to Tetris. Virtua Racing. I did not like Virtua Fighter on the Genesis. Loved it on the Saturn, loved it in the arcade, but the Genesis version is trash, but that's a whole other story. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I adore that game. I just can't talk, well enough. I can't go into detail. I would be here for 3 hours talking to you about Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but I want to focus on other Genesis titles that I love. World Series Baseball, X-Men, the original one, not the sequel so much. The Lion King, even though it's extremely hard. Samurai Showdown, Castle of Illusion. A lot of the Mickey Mouse, a lot of Disney Sega games were awesome. Aladdin is actually better than the Super Nintendo counterpart. I mean, if you believe the Super Nintendo version is better, you're crazy. Although they're both great versions, but yeah, definitely the Genesis version gets the edge. Rolling Thunder, Golden Axe, any of them. Gauntlet, Eternal Champions, Kid Chameleon, Strider. There's so many. Paperboy, Home Alone's one of my all-time favorites. Probably top 10 Genesis game for me. And I know a lot of people don't love Home Alone, but for a licensed game, it was made by Sega. I love that game. 20-minute timer. It's just awesome arcade fun. NBA Jam. The Spider-Man games weren't too strong on the Genesis. I'll give you that. Some Marvel games weren't that great. I did like the X-Men. I brought that up. Turtles Hyperstone Heist. One of the best beat-em-ups. Arguably, Turtles in Time is better, but they're sort of different, sort of not. Mickey Mania, a game that came out late in the lifespan of the Genesis from Sony, interestingly enough. What else? So many. RoboCop versus Terminator. Might and Magic. Might Magic 2, a PC game that was ported over. I love that as RPG. Haunting starring Poltergeist. Some of the boxing games. I can't think of the name of one of them right now. Sunset Riders, Marble Madness. So many great. Pugsy gets honorable mention. I know a lot of people don't like that game. That's from Psygnosis. Rest in peace. Sony put them under. They did not wipe out later on. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Chuck Rock, Joe and Mac. Gargoyles, Art of Fighting, so many classic Genesis games. Again, I have a lot of gameplay from some of those, particularly the ones made by Sega, and maybe a few licensed ones from other companies, but so many great games from Capcom, Konami, you name it. Sega Genesis, 35 years, congratulations, happy birthday. If you're a Sega fan, if you're a Genesis fan, let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of the gameplay, various clips from tons of classic Sega 16-bit titles. Remember, Genesis does what Nintendo. Thank you for watching. Until next time.
You